has entrusted us to. And it was quite interesting. Our team spent quite a bit of time in the recording studio, shooting some videos and helping with educational efforts. A great and productive trip, and very hot, but well worth it. But the good news is, even while traveling, I get to talk to our clients and listeners all over the country. Here are a few good stories that have happened over the past week, Tom. Just a snapshot of some of the people that I've been speaking with from coast to coast. Tom from Pennsylvania, retiring soon and needing a second opinion. We found his portfolio was certainly not in line with biblical values, and actually his performance was quite subpar as well. So we're helping Tom to create 50 to 60,000 of guaranteed income for the rest of his life, and more importantly, do so in a biblically responsible way. So Tom was so thankful, and in the process of cleaning up his portfolio. Another great story, John from New Jersey, tired of woke corporate America. He wanted to make a big change with his money. When I showed him what his portfolio was invested in, 50% of it supporting the woke companies he wants to avoid. And he was furious. He said, Jay, I don't care what it costs. Get me into a biblically responsible portfolio. Enough is enough. I want to put my money into good companies. So those are just a couple of our listeners, some of the things that we help with. Certainly, that's what we try to do here each week.
Fantastic. I was just reading this week about one of the nation's largest denominations, and they have a fund that people would invest money in, especially for pastors and church leaders, and that fund turned out to be very dirty, and it was a surprise to everyone who actually got the real story. What is the process you go through to screen and clean investment portfolios?
Yeah, so I mean, it really starts, serving the kingdom is such an honor and privilege, and we want to help people make changes, and we see it all the time. People want to make changes in their lives, whether it be losing weight, right? But they don't do anything about it. It's hard work, and you really have to change your diet, change fitness. These are how you make changes, and it's the same thing with our finances. A lot of people want to make progress, but they're not willing to take the time. And that's really what we want to do. We want to offer the audience the opportunity to really screen through their portfolio. We do what's called an X-ray. And the X-ray will look at all of their investments and look at what they're investing in. And think about this. If you buy a company's products, you're a customer, right? At the end of the day, Tom. However, if you own stock, you become an owner. And who has more responsibility, a customer or an owner for a corporation?
Yeah. Well, I really think the owner is more responsible.
Yeah, absolutely, right? You've got to give an account to God at some point, right? What did you do with the time, talent, and resources I provided to you? And if you own a stock, an ETF, which is an exchange-traded fund or a mutual fund, you become an owner of these companies. So that's why we want to practice biblically responsible investing. As Christians, we should aim to align our investments with biblical values. So the screen and clean process is really about becoming aware. What am I supporting? What's in my portfolio? What types of companies are in there, and do they line up with my Christian values? By doing this screening process, we can X-ray the portfolio and see, okay, is it in line with biblical values, yes or no? And then secondly, we're going to look at, is it getting good returns? And that's the second part of the mandate. Remember the parable of the talents? We're called to multiply what God has entrusted to us. So we have to do it in a biblically responsible way, but we're also called to multiply what he's given to us. So it's really biblically responsible investing, two parts. The first part is biblically responsible. Let's make sure our investments line up with God's word. Let's avoid abortion, pornography, embryonic stem cell research, things that he clearly warns us about in his word. And then the second part is the investments. How do we get a good return on the capital that we're investing? It's not an either or. It's not invest according to your faith and get bad returns. No, it's about investing according to your faith and seeking to get good returns at the same time. And that's what we help our listeners do. We offer the service absolutely free. It's called Clean It and Screen It and Clean It. Basically, they just provide their portfolio, provide a snapshot. I own these particular funds, these stocks. We screen it, put together a free report, and show them exactly where they're investing, what portion of their portfolio is clean, what portion is dirty. And then if they want to clean up the dirty portion, we show them some alternatives. And a lot of people say, hey, what do you have, 5 choices, Jay? No, there's actually, of the investment universe, there's 30,000 investments. Only about 7% of those investments fail our screen. So we've got 93% of the universe to work amongst. There's some better than others. We also try to find companies that our clients can be proud to own. And that takes a lot of time and research, and that's what we offer for our listeners.
Well, it's been about 5 years now, but as I recall, when I first had my investments screened, our family's investments, I believe it was 81% of our investments went to things that we couldn't defend, that we did not believe in. And so what we're really talking about is a free gift to our listeners. I mean, do you still offer this as a no charge and no obligation service?
Yeah. So we have some people take us up on the offer. A gentleman had a 401k. We went through, we screened it. He had a whole bunch of stocks, and we said, these ones are dirty, these ones are clean. And said, Jay, thank you. It's not right now. I want to continue managing my own portfolio, but thank you for making me aware of it. He went and ordered one of my books and read that. And eventually he says he wants to work with us. But for some people, doesn't make sense right now. But for others, they say, hey, Jay, I don't have any expertise in this. My advisor's not doing this, or I don't want to do it myself anymore. Can you handle the portfolio? We certainly can, but there's no obligation. As we do this screening service, absolutely free. It's our gift and our ministry for the listeners. And if they want to work with us after that, we'll talk about next steps, but there's never any obligation. I'm not a pushy person. If I work with someone and we both understand and it makes sense for us to work together, we'll both know it, and we'll move forward. Otherwise, we part as friends and help them with their understanding of where they're investing.
Very good. And that is free gift number 1 that I wanted to talk to our listeners about, and that is that free screening and cleaning process. And gift number 2, you also mentioned briefly, and that is the fact that you have a book that is available for free, a free download today. It's called Faith and Retirement with Jay Perrone, and it is available at the website, which is faithandretirement.com, your place for biblically responsible investing. And there was one other thing I just wanted to ask about in terms of what about folks who are close to retirement? Do you handle their investment strategy differently?
Yeah, so we do a program called Retirement Analyzer, and this is usually for people that are within a few years of retirement. And usually we recommend that they have at least $250,000, $250,000 saved, really to take advantage of a lot of the strategies, tax savings, and some of the planning that we do. It usually makes sense if you've got at least $250,000 saved for retirement, you're within a few years or just about to retire, or you just retired. It really helps us to stress test our listeners' portfolios to see what could be a problem down the road. Inflation, maybe it's taxes, maybe it's they run out of money too soon. We can forecast and look at various scenarios throughout history. What if we have another Great Depression? What if there's another shutdown, a COVID situation, or maybe inflation's running rampant again? We can model all of those scenarios and see, is a person in good shape to retire? Do they need to maybe do a few things differently, or maybe a whole lot different? That's what we help people really formulate that retirement strategy. And it's, again, a free service called Retirement Analyzer that will work with you if you've got at least $250,000 within a few years of retirement or about to retire. It really is a great way to get a second opinion.
Very good. And this is Faith and Retirement. Maybe you have money in motion in your life. Maybe you are someone who needs to sell a business or a home and has cash to invest. Or you just changed a job and you need to roll over that old 401k. Maybe a 401k you completely forgot about. Or maybe you need to retire and have a need to replace that income. Whatever the needs are, where your money is in motion, give Jay a call. And the telephone number is 800-270-7310. He is very accessible to you. I don't know how it is in your town, but in San Diego, there are lots of tall buildings. The biggest buildings are financial buildings. And you think about how unavailable the people are who are in leadership in those financial firms. Well, Jay is just the opposite. And he also understands your concerns, your spiritual concerns, as it relates to being a good steward with your finances. Jay, we're going to take a quick pause for the cause and be back with more right after this.
This is Faith and Retirement with Jay Perrone. Now, you don't have to choose between investment performance and biblical stewardship of your family investments. Learn more now at faithandretirement.com or call 800-270-7310. Online at faithandretirement.com.
Do your retirement investments line up with what you believe? I'm Jay Peroni, host of Faith and Retirement. I'm offering to screen your portfolio today absolutely free. Your investments really can honor God without sacrificing performance and returns. Learn more at faithandretirement.com. Screen your investments today. That's faithandretirement.com.
Don't miss Faith in Retirement with Jay Peroni, CFP and Senior Portfolio Manager of Faith Investor Services. Saturday afternoons at 1:30 Eastern, Sunday afternoons at 3. Sponsored by Faith Investor Services. There are roughly 2,000 Bible verses that mention money, so these kinds of things are important, we think, to God. How you steward, how you shepherd, how you oversee your finances. And we have a special guest star planned for our program in early September. That's a couple of weeks away, specifically the weekend of the 14th. Jay, tell listeners what you've got up your sleeve.
Yeah, so we're going to have Mike Skillman, who's our CEO at Faith Investor Services. He's going to be joining the show, and Mike is really fun. He's known for his approachable style. He always plays an active role in developing new business and growing relationships, and he has a real long track record in the financial services industry. And he's going to be sharing some ways he's been able to live out his faith as a business leader. And Mike will be talking about the Faith Investor Services origin story. How did we begin? What is our mission? And some exciting things that we're working on right now. I know it's going to be a great show. I'm looking forward to that in a couple of weeks.
Very good. And I said he was a guest star, but I got to say he does kind of look like a movie star. Now, this doesn't help us in radio, but he does, and I'm trying to figure out which movie star, maybe a 007 character. I'm not sure. Jay, the Fed is set to cut rates in September, and we hope that happens. And what impact will this have on investor portfolios?
Yeah, so Fed is set to cut rates. They've said that they're going to. I don't see why they wouldn't. And with rates really heading down, it really is a great opportunity as we look across the globe. If people have money on the sidelines sitting in cash or a bank account or even in a CD, what's going to happen is when rates are going up, banks and credit unions and insurance companies are very slow to raise rates. They want to keep them as low as possible, not have to pay people. But then as rates start to come down, they're very quick to start cutting rates. You're already seeing that. I'm seeing insurance bulletins where this insurance company's cutting rates. I'm seeing it across the nation, mortgage rates coming down, bank savings, deposit rates coming down. So it's a great time to be looking for alternatives. How can I still get a good rate of return? How can I get some dividend income? And one of the great places right now is dividend stocks, because when companies make profits, they can put that money into two uses. They can either reinvest it back into their business, or they can pay out a portion of it to their shareholders in the form of dividends. And this really is a great place where you can get some additional return. Look for great companies that pay dividends. A lot of the stocks in our portfolio, we look specifically, do they offer a dividend? Is that a deal killer if they don't? No. But if we have two companies, they're identical, great businesses, one pays a dividend, one doesn't, a lot of times we'll select the company that pays a dividend to get some additional yield or return for our clients. So we think right now it's a great time to be investing. The Fed is going to be cutting back on rates. That means stocks will be more attractive, growth stocks will be more attractive, dividend stocks will be more attractive as rates come down. And additionally, bonds, which have not been a great place to invest, will also start to see some appreciation again, because as rates go down, bond prices go up. So there's a lot of great opportunity also in precious metals, gold and silver, commodities. We're seeing some really amazing opportunities. So it'd be a great time if you haven't had your portfolio reviewed, do it before the Fed meets in September and starts cutting rates. We can map out a great strategy moving forward into the end of 2024 and beyond.
Oh, that is great. So there is a little bit of a clock on that, and we want to encourage our listeners to give you a call and take advantage of that at 800-270-7310. And Jay can help you with precious metals, by the way. So Harley-Davidson and Jack Daniels made news here in October. I don't think a lot of our listeners, sit on their Harleys and drink Jack Daniels, but even so, it follows a pattern that's made news headlines over the past year or so. You know what I'm talking about. Any thoughts?
Yeah, it's following that old popular mantra that's come out recently. It's go woke, go broke. And that's what a lot of companies are finally starting to face some backlash. For a while, they were running with no opposition. You saw Bud Light do it. They had transgender promotions. You had BlackRock getting very political with ESG and its agenda. And then more recently, we saw Tractor Supply Company abandoning its diversity, equity, and inclusion, their DEI programs, and their climate goals after weeks of conservative backlash. So finally, we're starting to see some pushback. And then recently here, as you mentioned, Harley Davidson and Jack Daniels are abandoning their DEI programs as well because of the growing pressure on companies to abandon these woke policies. And that's why we do the show, right, Tom? At the end of the day, to help empower people to make a difference with their money. We can all sit around complaining, talking about how bad culture is, but if we can band together, put our money together and fight for change, we can start to see some real movement. And that's what's really encouraging to me is that these case studies that we're seeing, companies are noticing. If we collectively take a stand, shop elsewhere, invest elsewhere, we can change corporate behavior. And that's really the only way I see to win this culture battle is to follow the money. If you want to hurt a company that's damaging society, you have two primary tools. Avoid their stock. Corporations notice when their share price is plunging. Additionally, if you own the stock either in a fund or you own individual shares, I say you answer to God at the end of the day, right? So we're called to be good stewards. So not only from a societal standpoint, but from a biblical perspective, we can avoid companies that don't line up with our faith. And certainly, another second best action is to stop buying these companies' products and services. We can shop elsewhere. But really, if we want to hit them where their wallet is, it's really in their share price because a lot of CEOs, their pay is tied to the corporate stock. They pay attention when their share price is plummeting and sales are plummeting. So those are really the two primary tools. Avoid their products and services. And then secondly, also avoid their stock.
Very good. Every night before I go to bed, I kind of take one last look in the mirror, and I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror and feel that I did the best I could that particular day to advance the ball down the field for the kingdom. Jay, the population's getting older, especially here in the United States, but really worldwide. I'm sure you're seeing more and more of our listeners getting ready for retirement. And what are some of the most important considerations as these folks get ready to retire? How can they avoid mistakes?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and I've been doing this now for almost 30 years, Tom, so I've seen it all. And it's just really baffling to me that people spend more time planning a family vacation, where we're going to go, what we're going to eat, what we're going to see. They spend a lot of time planning out that family vacation, but I see far fewer people spending that amount of time and the resources to really map out what is my retirement going to look at? What is it going to look like each day as I retire? And that's what inspires me each day is to work with my clients and find what is it that they're passionate about? What inspires them? The standard retirement goals may not apply to everyone, right? Just go golfing every day, live on the beach. And that's what I found is there's no one-size solution that fits for all of my clients. So I use Retirement Analyzer really to figure out what is retirement going to look like. For someone, it may be higher spending in the first 5 years. I've got this bucket list. I want to travel. I want to do these certain things. And then once I get all those out of the way, here's what my real retirement's going to look like. And here are the things I want to do, the missions I want to support, the ways I want to give back to my community. But it takes money to do all of these things. And a lot of people don't really have a good grasp on where is the money going to come from and how do I minimize taxes? What if inflation is worse than I thought it was going to be? Or what if, God forbid, my wife or myself need some sort of long-term care assistance? I'm looking at kind of like in football, there's the linemen, they're protecting the quarterback, their blind side. That's what I'm doing for my clients is protecting them against the blind sides, the things that they're not thinking about. These are the things that I've seen sidetrack people over the last 30 years. They ran out of money. They had a market crash and they didn't have a proper strategy, or maybe they needed that nursing care, or maybe inflation or taxes were worse than they anticipated. So again, as a planner, I'm going to help them make sure that their plan lines up with their God-given calling in their life. And then secondly, that they have enough money to fund that, and they've got good strategies to make sure they have income for life.
Well, very good. Everybody's financial situation is different. Jay, believe it or not, we're just about out of time. And talk about the best way for our listeners to reach out to you today.
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. You can go to faithandretirement.com, fill out the form, and set up a appointment. You'll have access to my calendar when works for you. We'll have a brief discussion, no cost, no obligation. We'll go through your scenario, see if we can point you in the right direction. The other way is they can email me, the letter J, Peroni, Peroni, at faithinvestorservices.com. Those are the two easiest ways to get me on the line or to set up an appointment.
Very good. And don't forget that if this is more your style, you can send Jay an email at the letter J, Peroni, Peroni, at faithinvestorservices.com. James Ford says, now listen, you who say today or tomorrow, we're going to go to this city or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make more money. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. So, something to think about from James chapter 4. Go to the website, download your free book at faithandretirement.com, or give Jay a call at 800-270-7310. Thank you so much for listening. Tell someone else about this outreach ministry, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to Faith and Retirement with Jay Peroni. Do your family investments match what you believe? Call us now for your free portfolio screen. 800-270-7310. You can know that your investments line up with your faith and values. There's no obligation. Call and ask your questions. 800-270-7310. And call us today for a free retirement analyzer, a $750 value for clients with $250,000 or more. To get your free ebook from Jay, visit faithandretirement.com. That's faithandretirement.com. Investors should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully before investing. For a prospectus or summary prospectus with this and other information about the funds can be found online, KOCG or PRAY. Read the prospectus or summary prospectus carefully before investing. Investing in ETFs involves risk, and there is no guarantee the fund's investment strategy will be successful, and you can lose money on your investment in the fund. Shares may trade at a premium or discount to their NAV in the secondary market. The fund is new and has limited operating history to judge. Faith and Retirement is sponsored by Faith Investor Services, LLC. Learn more now at faithandretirement.com or call 800-270-7310. Online at faithandretirement.com. Tell a friend about this outreach. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.